wilderness first where there's nobody around, because if you listen to the word that was read this morning from Matthew chapter 4, 1 through 11, when Jesus was in the wilderness, there was a testing done in the wilderness. So God is trying to get you to a wilderness, meaning that it's a place where nobody's there. And like I was saying this morning about praise, is that God wants to get you to a place where there's just you and him there. That's the wilderness. When you're in the wilderness, that means God pulls you away from everything else, and now you got a one-on-one dealing with God. That's why God drops you at the place of the weed. He said, before I get you to your promised land, let me take you to the wilderness first. Yeah. Because the wilderness is going to be your place of testing. Yeah. In the wilderness where you're going to get to know God. If you know the story, when they got to the wilderness, they had to depend on God for food. Yeah. They had to depend on God for water. That was in the wilderness. Because when they were in Egypt under slavery, the Pharaoh took care of them. And let me say, the Pharaoh is just another type of devil. Another type of something of slavery, had them in bondage. So God said, I'm going to bring you to the wilderness because you have a slave mentality, and I have to break that slave mentality. Meaning that in the wilderness, there's not going to be no more Pharaoh where he's going to give you everything you need, but then you're just a slave for him and you're working for him. Meaning I want to bring you to the wilderness because I want you to learn how to live with me. I want you to learn how to depend upon me. I want you to learn that I'm going to be the one that feeds you. I'm going to be the one that clothes you. So in the wilderness, you're going to build a relationship with me, because in the wilderness, there's nobody there but you and I. And sometimes when you're in the wilderness, it feels like you're alone. Have you ever felt alone? Like when you're going through, you feel like you're the only one that's by yourself. Yeah. That's just your wilderness. I'm here to tell you today. You're just in the wilderness, and that's when the time that God is actually revealing himself to you. Yeah. If you feel like you're in the wilderness in your life, that means that you're actually one-on-one working with God, and God is pruning and shaping and molding you in the wilderness because there's nobody there. There's nobody around. In your wilderness, let me tell you one thing about the wilderness. This is the key thing, and I want you to be able to track this. If you're in the wilderness, it feels like there's nobody there. It feels like you're all by yourself. Yeah. The wilderness feels like nobody understands. And it's like you can't see God. You can't see him in the wilderness, but he's drawn you, or he's led you to the wilderness. And let me tell you what the people said when they were in the wilderness. They said, Moses, why did you bring us out here to this wilderness? They said, wasn't it better when we was in Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots? And at least we knew where our meal was coming from. But Moses, you brought us out here to the wilderness. At least when we were in Egypt, we had food, we had drink, we had water. And even though Pharaoh and them was beating the heck out of us, at least we knew where our meal was coming from. When you're in the wilderness, let me tell you why I know this way of explaining if you're in the wilderness. If you're in the wilderness, how you can confirm you're in the wilderness, because your mind will always take you back to when you was in slavery. And your mind will always remind you how good it was when you were in slavery. Yeah. Have you ever did wrong before, and then when you stop doing it, your mind takes you back and say, well, listen, at least when I was doing wrong, I knew I was able to be provided for. Yeah. See, I'm an old hustler. And sometimes when I used to be hustling and I'm working this old job, now I said, at least when I was moving them, I had this much money. Your mind will take you back to Egypt in the wilderness. And that sounds so silly today, because you mean to say that now that I'm free in God, I missed when I was in slavery. I missed when I was in bondage. I missed when I was under the influence of a Pharaoh. Let me tell you, the Pharaoh is anything that's over top of your life that you are a slave to. That's what a Pharaoh is. A Pharaoh is still today. A Pharaoh can be anything. It can be your car. It can be your job. It can be your relationship. It can be drugs. It can be drinking. A Pharaoh can be anything that you allow to take over your life. Yeah. Your Pharaoh could be your spouse. Yeah. Somebody you allow to have bondage over you and control and manipulate you. Yeah. And people have a way of doing that. Yeah. And you got to get from under the Pharaoh. And God is saying, I'm calling you from out of that Pharaoh unto the wilderness so I can get you to the land that's flowing with milk and honey. Yeah. God's saying, I want to deliver you. But I'm not just going to deliver you physically. See, here in the Old Testament, God did a physical deliverance. Meaning he moved them from one place to another. Let me say this here. See, sometimes in life I've done this too. When this relationship not going good, I move to this relationship. instead of just getting out of this relationship and getting into the wilderness with God and letting God work on me, then maybe when I get to the next relationship, I don't hop from the next relationship to the next relationship or to the next one. Yeah. Or listen, I don't just leave this job because things not going good. Because I mean, to get to the next job, I'm going to leave that job because things ain't going good. Then I'm going to go to that job and leave. But God is saying, hold up, before you make another move, let's go to the wilderness first. Yeah. Let me work on you in the wilderness. Let me fix the issue that's really going on. Yeah. God is saying, when I pull you from Egypt to the wilderness, I'm going to get Egypt out of you. So when you come out of Egypt, you can go to the wilderness. Yeah. I mean, you go to the promised land. Yeah. Because you can't go from Egypt to the wilderness to the promised land unless you go to the wilderness first. And God takes Egypt, which represents slavery, out of you. Yeah. Preach that. See, what happens is we got some things that's going on within us. And we've taken them from relationship and household to household. And you know what, though? We keep looking at people and thinking this relationship is going to be better than the next one. Yeah. Or this place is going to be better than the next one. And God is saying, no. We got to fix you first. That's right. So that's why he called them to the wilderness first. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? He called them to the wilderness first because he's saying, listen, okay, now that I've got you out of Egypt, I got to get Egypt out of you. You still got some slave mentality about you. Come on now. They said, I watched this thing the other day, they were talking about debt counseling. They said that you can get everybody in America out of debt right now. And tomorrow morning, they'll be right back in debt. Yeah. Because they don't know how to control their spending anyway. So even if America got into debt, they'll be right back in debt tomorrow. Because this is a country where we teach this lend, and everybody just borrowing. So if you think finances is the key to everything, finances ain't the key. Because if you're not good with your finances today, and it came through and paid off your bills tomorrow, you're right back in debt tomorrow, and you go back there, and you swipe the heat off the credit card. You swipe the the stripe off of it. That's what you would do, won't you? That's what you would do. So God is saying, listen here, even if I free you, you still have a slave mentality. Yes, sir. So you're going to take that slave mentality from this relationship right into the next relationship because you have a slave mentality. And everywhere you go, you take that slave mentality with you. That's funny, man, that you meet people. And I'm not picking the one, but that's every relationship I get in, the man always beating me. You take that with you from one relationship to another one. And you say, it's the same people over and over again, but sometimes it's you that God wants to deal with. That's right. You got a spirit in you that allows you to have a man beat on you like a punching bag. Because every man is doing it. Come on now. So God is saying, I want to take you from Egypt into the wilderness, and from the wilderness to the promised land. Yeah. Let me say this, though, because I'm not have time to go through all the scriptures, but let me tell you a little about the story, because you watch the Ten Commandments over and over and over again, because they play it every Easter. Over and over again, the same one. And do you remember that when Moses went and told Pharaoh that God said, let my people go? Pharaoh said, who is God? I'm God, I'm Pharaoh. What do you mean let some people go? He said, Moses, don't come in here with this stuff. There's a lot of people out there working for me. Do you keep them away from their burdens? Meaning they out there making bricks right now with straw. He said, you're talking about let the people go? He said, Moses, just because you said that, I'm going to have the people make bricks without straw. Go ahead. Just because you talking about you want them to, you tell me some God and told you to come tell the people to let them go and they're going to go serve some God out in some wilderness. I'm going to make the people work twice as hard now. Yeah. I'm going to have them go make bricks without straw. And he said, you know what? Not just that, I'm going to have them meet the same quota as they were meeting before. So if they had to make 400 bricks a day, I want them to still make 400 bricks a day, but I'm not going to give them any straw. Let them gather their own straw. And it said the people had to go find stubble, and they were scattered all abroad, trying to find stubble to make bricks. So the Pharaoh made it harder on them when he knew that God sent someone to deliver them. Let me say this here. When you're in slavery, or when you're in Egypt, right, and you get under the word of God, and the devil finds out that you're on the way to be delivered, what he's going to do? He's going to make it hard for you. Yeah. Let me say this, though. The devil not going to let you go without putting up a fight. That's right. See, every time you're getting ready to walk out of one relationship, it's like it get harder and harder and harder to leave. Have you ever been that way? Every time you try to get out of something, it seems like it's getting harder and harder and harder to leave. The Pharaoh saying, I'm not letting you go. I don't care what God said. I'm not letting you go. I'm not bringing you out. Matter of fact, I'm going to have you do your work, and you're going to make bricks without straw. And it said that they worked so hard that they didn't even want to